So we started with the question, is there a correlation between renewable energy potential and current capacity? Essentially, we wanted to see if states were using their natural resources to their fullest potential. And what we found is that there was no strong positive correlation between the two. Instead, some states are much closer to achieving complete renewable energy than others. This is important because fossil fuels contribute to climate change, and there are limited resources, which means we need to find new ways to create energy in order to keep going forward. Our two graphs show the relationship between potential and capacity for two renewable focus areas, wind and solar. Figure 1 shows the percent of total energy production that comes from wind energy versus the mean wind power. As you can see, Alaska receives a ton of wind, but it doesn't really produce much wind energy. On the other hand, Iowa doesn't receive much wind, but they still produce a lot of wind energy. This shows that Iowa is doing a great job at harnessing its potential, and that Alaska could do much more work to get ahead. In Figure 2, we plot the percent energy generated that comes from solar versus the sun index, which is essentially an index that shows how sunny a given state is. As you can see, New Mexico and California are both relatively sunny, but New Mexico is much more and produces much less solar energy. This shows that New Mexico could do much more to produce solar energy, whereas California is doing a great job at harnessing its potential.
As Ryan just mentioned, the first data we looked at showed no positive correlation between renewable resources and capacity for renewable energy. So we decided to make comparisons between states with similar potentials but differences in their transitions. We made this comparison based on a few factors that better capture a state's current energy capacity, which refers to the trends in energy consumption, production, and the energy economy. We also included the number of energy incentives to possibly suggest policy changes. We noted traditional and renewable energy employment as a percentage of total energy jobs to show where economies stand. The ratios comparing the production of non-renewable energy to the energy sources that we focused on also highlights current dependence on fossil fuels. These factors allowed us to get a better understanding of what the current state of the energy transition is and where states can improve going forward.
For solar potential, we found that obviously California had much more solar energy installed than New Mexico, as you can see on the graph to the left. And we found that this correlated with the number of energy incentives. California has far more energy incentives than New Mexico does, and also produces far less natural gas and petroleum than New Mexico does when compared to the amount of solar that they both produce. California also has much more of its energy jobs concentrated in energy efficiency and much less of its energy jobs concentrated in fossil fuels, meaning that New Mexico might have a much harder time transforming to solar energy because of this reliance on its natural gas and petroleum and because of all the jobs in fossil fuels. The same goes for Alaska and Iowa. Alaska had much less wind energy installed than Iowa and much less energy incentives, along with more natural gas and petroleum generated per wind energy, much less energy jobs, and much more energy jobs in fossil fuel. Sorry, much less energy jobs in efficiency and much more in fossil fuel. So those reliance on the economy that comes from natural gas and petroleum, as well as all the jobs in fossil fuels, is a big obstacle for New Mexico and Alaska to switch to solar energy and to wind energy, respectively, which is why they might not have been able to unlock their potential yet.
As Michael just mentioned, with New Mexico and Alaska, we found that there are some challenges in implementing renewable energy infrastructure. One of these is the current economic reliance on fossil fuels. When it comes to fossil fuel production, New Mexico ranks 3rd in crude oil and 8th in natural gas, and Alaska ranks 5th in crude oil and 13th in natural gas. Since they are some of the top fossil fuel producers in the United States, they are less likely to adopt more renewable energy. We found that the most effective ways California and Iowa had for transitioning to renewable energy were their incentives in clean energy companies and by focusing on transitioning traditional energy jobs to renewable ones. In conclusion, we found that the United States' economic dependence in fossil fuels limits the potential of renewable energy, and that transitioning will require large investments in infrastructure and a focusing on transitioning traditional jobs to renewable energy jobs.